I once did a remodeling job in a hospital's oncology department. Because it was an active hospital, we had to do the work after hours. Many of the lights throughout the building were out, except those that stayed on permanently, exit signs and whatnot, which made for a really creepy effect, not to mention a constant eerie hum and warnings about radioactive exposure posted here and there. I had been trying to listen to music on my phone and follow the score of an NBA playoff game, the one in which Ray Allen hit that three to spoil the Spurs' chances of a championship. But because the walls were lined with lead, the service reception was terrible, so I eventually gave up. There I am in a room by myself in silence, except for the creepy hum of machines and lights, just picturing the poor souls walking in and out of here on a daily basis, when suddenly there was a blood-curdling scream coming from down the hall. I was scared shitless. I froze for a second. I thought surely I imagined it because the hospital was closed. But then it came again, this time closer to where I was, so I looked around for a possible weapon, of which I had only a razor knife. I grabbed it and slowly exited the room I was in, and the scream came again. This time I could tell it was really close to me, and this time it was followed by laughter, and it sounded like more than one voice. Now my intense fear is turning into confusion, and finally the source of the screams comes into view. It was the cleaning crew of about 3 to 4 teenagers. They had been goofing off apparently, and didn't think anyone else was there. I've worked with a lot of people who have pretty significant histories of drug abuse, violence, erratic behavior, and a few people with murder convictions. For the most part, none of them faze me too much. I've got all kinds of stories about the stuff that's happened with them, but I've only really had one client I had ever been afraid of. When he was new to the agency, I did his intake. Homeless guy, early 60s, diagnosed with schizophrenia. He was currently living on the streets and was open that he had serious issues with drugs. He talked about his violent outbursts. He would get angry and paranoid and cut up other homeless guys he thought were out to harm him. While talking, I then learned that he had been incarcerated previously for murdering his wife with a shotgun. He did so an account because he was depressed and the voices told him to kill her. Again, none of this was typically out of the ordinary for me, but what scared me was his attitude. He described the murder without any prompting, in a graphic but almost literate way, which he smiled blissfully, then finishing saying that after the murder was completed he felt relieved, like a great heavy cloud lifted from my head. He was insightful about his symptoms, but didn't seem to care. Again, this was not the first person with a murder rap, nor the first with schizophrenia that I had ever worked with, but he scared the shit out of me. It was an animal instinct, if anything. After that, he was unassigned to me, and I never really saw him again. Last I heard, he had left for his hometown, but I still see him around occasionally, or at least I think I do. I don't know exactly how he got released after incarceration, but it was a pride parole. The vast majority of people with schizophrenia are not dangerous or violent, and some of my most productive case management relationships were with people who had schizophrenia. But I have a feeling that this guy had something else going on.